where news comes first. This is WECT News at 11.
Good evening and thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Daniela Hankey.
And I'm John Evans. Tonight we're hearing from two families impacted by what police called a case of domestic violence.
Deshae Favors is in the New Hanover County Jail under a $250,000 bond and charged with shooting and killing Anthony Parker at 34 North Apartments in Wilmington. WCT's Emma Mayor spoke to members of both families after Favors faced a judge on a second-degree murder charge. And what did we learn about the situation today, Emma?
Daniela, prosecutors said today in court Favors shot Parker while he was running away from her. Warrants show that Favors told officers Parker attacked her. Tonight, both families are speaking out about what happened. Anthony Parker's family is still reeling from his death on September 28th. A domestic dispute turned deadly that night. Deshae Favors told police she fired a gun when Parker attacked her. Now she's in jail charged with second-degree murder. Parker's family says her $250,000 bond is helping them heal.
Our heart has been relieved. It's still aching. Quite naturally, it's going to ache. But we are relieved that she has been apprehended.
Favors' mother says her daughter acted in self-defense. She says Favors feared for her life and was protecting herself and her 4-year-old daughter.
This is a tragic story of a domestic violence situation, and many women in the world cannot stand up for themselves against a perpetrator. They just don't have any other defense other than a weapon, because as you know, women are at a deficit when attempting to protect themselves against a male.
On the day of the shooting, police say Favors was granted a temporary restraining order against Parker. In a 911 call obtained by WECT, Favors said he showed up to her house violating that order.
My child isn't here, and he came in here and he attacked me. I have a firearm, and I did let one round go because he attacked me. He came to my house.
Favors' mother says the outcome is tragic for both families.
She would not hurt anyone. She has no history of violence. She is an upstanding single mother that is just been put in a horrible situation that is devastating to all of the parties involved.
Prosecutors said in court on Tuesday that Favors shot Parker as he was running away. Parker's family called it a senseless act.
We just want justice to be done because it's a senseless murder that could have been, should have been a better alternative than death.
Police say Anthony Parker died between 100 to 150 yards from Favors' apartment where the shooting happened. Favors will appear in court again on October 26th. Daniela.
Emma, thanks for that report tonight.